Welcome back to macroeconomics class, and this is the fifth module, and we'll be discussing on unemployment and inflation. And at this module, we will explore the dual challenges of employment and inflation, also the central indicators of an economics overall health, and these issues have far-reaching implications for economic stability and the social fabric of any option. What is unemployment? Unemployment occurs when individuals willing and able to work cannot find suitable job, representing a loss of potential income and productive resources. And this leads to reduced income, low aggregate demand, increased poverty, and social unrest. And as per the types of unemployment, we have the frictional unemployment. And when we talk about the frictional unemployment, it is the short-term joblessness as a person transition between jobs. A few short time, the very small short time joblessness, a period where a person transits from a job to another. Also, we have the structural unemployment. This is when there are mismatch between worker skill and labor market demand. We have the cyclical employment, which is caused by economic downturns and reduced aggregate demand. And we have the seasonal unemployment, and this occurs due to changes in labor demand and at different times of the year. We also have the technological unemployment, and this is a subset of the structural unemployment that occurs specifically when automations or new technology displaces human labor. And then the next is the classical or real wage unemployment, and it arises when wage are set above the market clearing level, leading to excess supply of labor. And we have the voluntary or involuntary and involuntary unemployment. For the voluntary unemployment, it occurs when individuals choose not to work at the prevailing wage rate. And for involuntary unemployment, it refers to individuals who are willing to work at current wage but cannot find a job. To measure unemployment, um, we need to look at few things, and accurate unemployment data uh, helps government make informed decisions on monetary and fiscal policy, and it identifies those actively seeking work but unable to find it. And in measuring this, the following are very essential. The labor force is the first one, and these are individuals aged 15 to 64 who are employed or actively seeking employment. So if we will if we will call those that are labor force, they are from 15 to 64 years. And for the unemployment rate, it is the percentage of the labor that is unemployed. And the formula to calculate that is unemployed person divided by the labor force times 100. And for labor force participation rate, it is the percentage of working age population in the labor force. And the formula is labor force divided by working age population multiplied by 100. And the employment to population ratio. And for this, it is the proportion of working age population currently employed. And the formula is employed person divided by working age population multiplied by 100. What are the challenges in measuring unemployment? These challenges actually includes the informal employment, that is in developing countries like Nigeria that we have. Many people work in the informal sector, making accurate classification difficult. Also, another thing is the underemployment, and these are people employed below their skill level or for few hours. And another challenge is seasonality, where employment fluctuates seasonally, particularly in agriculture and tourism. And another challenge is the false reporting, and where respondents may misreport status due to stigma or misunderstanding. Another key concept is the inflation. And when we talk about the inflation, it is the persistent rise in the general price level of goods and services affecting purchasing power and the economic stability. And we have types of inflation. We have the demand pull inflation, which this is when the total demand for goods and services in the economy exceed its productive capacity. Another is the cost push inflation, and this is an increase in production input costs like the wages, the raw material, the energy passed to the consumer. So it is the increase in the production input costs that are passed to the consumers. And also, you have the built-in inflation, which can also be a wage price spiral. And this is when expectation of rising prices leads to demand for higher wages. We have the hyperinflation, which is the uncontrollable rapid price increase, which is over 50% per month. We have the creeping and mild inflation, which is the gradual, slow pace increase, typically below 3% per year, often considered beneficial. And we have the galloping inflation, and this is when prices rise steeply, that is double or triple digits percentage annually, and this erodes purchasing power. What are the causes of inflation? We have excessive growth in money supply, also increase in aggregate demand. We also, another cause is the increase in production costs. Another is exchange rate depreciation. Also, the fiscal policy is another cause of inflation where there is excessive government spending. Also, structural bottleneck. Another is the imported inflation. Lastly, the inflationary expectation. These are the causes of inflation. We have another concept, which is the Philip curve analysis, and this illustrates the relationship between inflation and unemployment. And when we talk about this, it's divided into two: the short-run Philip curve and then the long-run Philip curve. For the short-run Philip curve, it suggests a negative relationship, and it deals with the high inflation, low unemployment, the low inflation, the high unemployment. This trade-off is temporary actually. And for the long run, Phillips curve, this is a vertical at the natural rate of unemployment, and no long run trade-off is seen. And there is an attempt to reduce unemployment below the natural rate of unemployment, only leads to higher inflation as such. And what are the expectation and policy implication of Philip curve? And the Philip curve framework has evolved to include inflation expectation and supply shocks. We have the expectation augmented Philip curve, and this inflation depends on actual unemployment and expected inflation. And if unemployment is below the natural rate and the actual inflation exceeds expected inflation, shifting the curve upward. And as you can see in the diagram that is shown on the screen. And also, um, we have the role of supply shock, and it explains stagflation, and which is the high inflation and unemployment, and the negative supply shock, that is oil rise, causes the curve to shift unfavorably. And the policy implication for this in the short run, it guides demand side stimulus, and also for long run, focus on structural reform for unemployment. And as per central bank balance price stability and employment as such. In conclusion, we've been able to look into unemployment, inflation, the Philip curve, and how it pertains to the policy. And we've seen that labor market inefficiency and economic downturn is what's uh, uh, is characterized by the unemployment aspect, and it can be seen that it's quantified by various rates. For inflation, it is driven by demand, cost, and monetary factors, eroding purchasing power and destabilizing economies. For Philip curve, we've seen that it illustrates short-run trade-offs, but long-run equilibrium shows no trade-off. And in terms of policymakers balance growth and stability using structural reforms for unemployment and monetary control for inflation. Thank you.